Alright, hello everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. So, these face masks were recently made mandatory in Melbourne, but I've heard up to 50% of the population is not wearing them, which is pretty good. At least there seem to be some people with some free spirit out there. But yeah, a lot of people have been talking about the masks lately, and I think it's pretty simple what's going on there. It's a dehumanization thing. We all know, if you've looked into it at all, you'll know that the masks do not stop the virus in any way. That's not what they're for. But it's something of a compliance test. Jump through the hoop. I don't know why people haven't noticed this is how governments work. They've been doing this for decades in so many different ways. And yeah, people generally just jump through the hoop. But yeah, this is just on a larger scale and it's more obvious. I'd say this is some of the first moves of global government, and it's a sure sign of things to come. Whatever happens, I'm not going to be wearing a fucking mask, that's for sure. So the other thing, in the last video, we somewhat went through Crowley. So I thought I'd just quickly point out that Crowley was an incredible intellect, a great spirit, and an exceptional magician. But his life was not really one to be emulated, I would say. He was spoiled, decadent, individualistic, and a sex freak. He died poor and a hopeless drug addict. And he never really had to learn anything about restraint or anything like that. But yeah, just like Hitler and people like that, Crowley's become something of a fall guy for evil, and it's total bullshit. Just like when people like Nelson Mandela and Barack Drone Bomber are remembered as men of peace or something, even though Mandela was a terrorist who killed innocent people, and Barack Drone Bomber killed many hundreds of thousands of innocent people. So yeah, it's still bullshit on both sides, and there's no point listening to any of it really. People have told me I should look more into Evola and Miguel Serrano, and I will do that in time. My reading list is massive, but yeah, we'll get to it. I also recently heard a very interesting term. Now, I'm sure we've all heard the term pathological altruism, and we get a sort of a sense that, yeah, that does apply to a specific group of people. But have you heard of the term pathological deconstructionism? And do you think you might know which group of people that term might apply to? Pathological deconstructionism. I think that's a good one. I don't know who came up with that, but nice work. Alright, so in this video we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to explore some ideas that I've come across in the tarot that I think are worth sharing, as they're very relevant to the modern world, and a lot of things that people are going through, and I guess will always go through, have always gone through. The tarot is a very good tool because it's very Western for starters, and it deals with every aspect of being a human and humans' relationship to divinity and the world around them and each other. So it's a great tool. It holds infinite knowledge. As far as I can see, you could never fully master the tarot, but I thought I would share some of the stuff that I've learned in this video. So we have the Empress, the Emperor, and the Devil. Obviously, almost everyone knows of the Devil card in the tarot. It's interesting how people do have some strange affinity for the Devil, even if it's based on fear or aversion. I don't know how many people in the audience know much about the tarot, but I think this will be appealing to people who know nothing and to people who are quite experienced. So if you look through the handbook that you would get with your tarot deck, it would tell you that the Empress means fruitfulness, action, and initiative, and if it's reversed, it means light and truth. But that doesn't tell us much. If you look at the Emperor card, the book will tell you that the Emperor means stability, power, protection. If it's reversed, it means benevolence and compassion. If we look at the Devil card in our handbook, it it will say that it means ravage, violence, vehemence, force. If it's reversed, it means weakness, pettiness, and blindness. But again, these definitions don't tell us very much. So we'll start with the Empress here. So the Empress is the perfect balance of the two previous cards in the tarot, that being the High Priestess and the Magician. These would be both inward and outward directed forces, and the balance of those two being creativity. The Empress card is creativity incarnate. It's sensuality, sexuality, nature, passion and pleasure. You'll notice that the best creations are a product of passion. This card is about enjoying life through the senses. It's beatific and ecstatic visions, often linked to things like Lucifer. And as you see on the card there is the symbol of Venus. This card is representative of Venus, Diana, and Lucifer. It is indulgence, suppression of the intellect or the monkey mind through ecstasy and bliss or experience. It is wisdom through feeling and experience. The sort of wisdom that cannot be gained through the intellect. This is getting your hands dirty, getting into nature, learning the mysteries of nature. Excess of this energy leads to the Devil card, and we'll get into that in a second. So looking at the Empress card, we see that she is sitting on like velvety cushions. She's very comfortably dressed. We see nature, plentiful and flowing streams in the background, and the wheat fields in the front. This is all plentiful, fruitfulness, abundance, indulgence. This is soft cushions, silky dresses. I notice there's also 11 stars on her head and 8 pearls around her neck, and she holds 1 pearl in her hand. I've heard that represents the 9th planet, Venus. You also see the alchemical symbol for Venus there on the heart-shaped cushion. So this is definitely Venus, who is represented by the green light. And that is also where our Bulgarian brother told me comes the green light of Lucifer. So it always up here. This is definitely the card of Venus and Lucifer. The abundance of nature and the wisdom found through indulgence. But of course, excess of this card leads to dark places, like the Devil. But yes, there's obviously a lot more levels to this card. There's more esoteric ideas, and I could go a lot further into this, but I think you get the idea for now. So now let's look at the counterbalance of this card in the Emperor. Oh, just before I will go on to the Emperor, is that people who embody the Emperor card, as we'll get into soon, often mistake the Empress for the Devil. And this is a mistake that I've seen a lot of people making recently. They identify people who embody the Empress card as the Devil. And hopefully this video will point out the difference. So the Emperor card represents the opposite energy of the Empress. If the Empress is indulgence and sensuality, then the Emperor represents self-discipline and restraint, the type of self-discipline needed to accomplish long-term goals. The Emperor card represents working out, study, self-improvement, meditation, eating well, fasting, all these kinds of things. The Emperor keeps the Empress from becoming the Devil, and it is important to live a full and fulfilling life to balance both sides of the Emperor and the Empress, and to not lean too far to one side. Although most of us, myself included, probably lean to one side. It would be very rare that I've ever come across anyone who has these two energies perfectly balanced. I definitely lean towards the Empress side, and probably most of us in the modern world would tend to do that. But certainly in the more fascist circles, most of the people there are leaning towards the Emperor card, you'll find. Also in a lot of spiritual circles, people have a tendency to lean towards the Emperor card. And the problem with this can be excessive Emperor card energy can lead you to believing that all people are the devil. You can lose all joy in life, end up detached from other humans, unable to enjoy their company. You end up with a lack of passion and unbalanced. I guess this is the typical conservative guy who's considered as boring and lacking in any passion. Or the overly spiritual guy who can't enjoy life at all. Everything must be taken seriously and everything is to be restraint. What the Emperor often fails to recognize is that there is just as much wisdom found through indulgence as there is through restraint. Crowley said to the rich man he would give him pestilence, war, famine, and to the man who has nothing he would give him the perfume and the glory. And there is equal validity and wisdom to be learned through both experiences, depending on where you're at in life. If you have it all, you're obviously not going to learn much by gaining more. And if you have nothing, you're not going to learn much by losing the nothing that you have. So it's all relative between these two cards, and the key is to strike a balance that fits you as an individual. So yeah, if you look at the Emperor card, you see that he's sitting on a stone throne with ram's horns on it. Everything's extremely hard and rigid. In the background are desolate mountain ranges and no sign of any life in nature at all. On his head, he wears a crown with 5 jewels in it. 5 almost always representing the senses in this case. And I could say that this is someone who has control over their 5 senses. Their 5 senses are not out of control. He's controlled them, but if you look at the look on his face, despite his control, his stability, his power, his strength, he doesn't look too happy about the whole situation. Kind of grim, like he's missing something. And what he's missing is the Empress card, the softness, the joy, and the indulgence. So that is the danger of the Emperor, and I have seen several of my comrades fall victim to this card. And the only cure is the Empress, not more Emperor. Okay, so now we move on to the Devil. The word that best sums up this card in my mind is weakness, addiction, bad patterns of behavior. This is drugs, alcohol, and partying, a lust for sex, money, and power. The devil represents anything that separates us from the divine, lowers our vibrational state, or weakens our aura. It's spiritual darkness and ignorance. You see the inverted pentagram there on the forehead of the devil, and people always say it's satanic imagery, it's pure evil, and it's no, not at all. It means several different things actually, but in this case it means that the material world has taken precedence over the spiritual. An upright pentagram has the point pointing upwards, directly upwards, representing the spirit over the material world. So an inverted pentagram represents the material world over the spiritual, so that the material world has taken precedence over the spiritual. It's gossip, sports, social media, sex, drugs, partying, chasing money, fear, anxiety, procrastination, apathy, ignorance. So if we look at the card, we see the background is now total darkness. This represents a very low vibrational state. This is like in the underworld. This is low vibration. This is a drug addict, a sex freak, someone who has no control over their 5 senses at all, and they are a slave to their lusts. You see the grapes on the tail of the woman to the left. That represents indulgence in things like drugs, alcohol. The fire being lit on the tail to the right of the male character represents things like passions and lust, physical addiction, a lust for power, material possessions. But you'll notice that both characters are chained to the devil, but the chains are loose around the neck of these individuals. And this symbolizes that whenever they want, they can remove the chains of the devil and escape his grasp. And the way to do this is through the Emperor card. That is self-restraint, discipline. And that is what keeps you from the devil. The Empress is the surest path to the devil if the Emperor does not keep her in check. But the Emperor would do well to not mistake the Empress for the devil like so many of us do. And I think this is essentially what people do with Crowley. They mistake the Empress for the devil. And it's interesting how a lot of people make the same mistake, especially Christians, representing Lucifer as the devil. And this is the same mistake. It's based on ignorance. It's the Emperor calling the Empress the devil. And it's I hope I've illustrated the difference in this video. But yeah, I'll revisit the tarot again and again in the future, because there's endless insights to be gained from the tarot, and I think a lot of people are looking for this sort of stuff, and I'm not sure there's that many people talking about it. So alright, so I hope everyone enjoyed that one. So if anyone does fall victim to the devil card, you should, the card that lowers the soul, lowers the vibration and destroys the aura. The only way out of this card is through. Alright, well that's it. See you in the next video.